Oh, it's July now. There we go. Connected. All the string span. Welcome to the Stream the Dreams project. Thank you all so much for your support of Mr. Voya Bean so far. I'm very, very grateful, girly. Microphone isn't. Oh, that was probably loud. It's in front of my monitor. I can't see through it. No, don't go that way. There. Go where you belong. Pulls out of purgatory. I missed you, babies. It's been 1,000 years. It's been almost a week. The last time we were at desktop was last Monday. Sheesh. It's wild. Almost as wild as the zoo. Go see the Bebas, and then I think I'm in the mood to paint tonight. Paint and recap. Maybe games. But for now, I think I want to paint and recap. Oh, it felt good. Sweet relief. Get our Go Cam going. I'm shedding like crazy today. Everywhere. Get off of me. The lens is dirty too. It's better. This is all falling apart. You need to get your head back on straight. Blurp. So bright. It was right in my face. That's too much. Too much. Where's the Go phone for chat? Over here. Oh no, it might not have battery. 28%. I guess that just means we zoom. Should hold up somewhat reliably. Sign in, restream. Oh, what did I just do? Where'd it go away? Okay. This case really doesn't fit in the thingy. That's okay, but rude. It's just gonna be clunky. I need to redo how all of that is set up. Why is Restream still giving me a tiny screen? It's like size 2 font. Oh my god. Tank test. It's the tiniest tank. It's a kitten tank. Baby tank. Let me flip us over. Oh. Not updated the board or anything. In my head, it's still June. Coffee, and roasting the Steves and the Claudine. Mr. Tank, Mr. Gustav, Mr. Doodle needs his meds and then he's gonna capsize his tent 1,000 times over. No, probably better. It's probably better. Onwards. Claudia and Peewee have bird TV on to try and drown out some of the fireworks. Hello, lady. Hello, I missed you too. I missed you too. How you doing? How you doing? Miss Claudine. Okay, you get your own time. Oh, that won't work with the browser open. Dang it. That's fine. Speedrun Zoo. Claudia Boo. She had an adoption event on Friday because it went from when I started work until 7. So it worked out perfect. I was able to take her. Why did I adjust this so tight last time? Holy smokes. There we go. That's better. Oh my god. None of this is better. Okay. I need to fix this. I thought it was gonna hold up, but I was wrong. Okay, that should be better. Hi, Claudia. When I picked her up from her event, she greeted me so happily. Oh my god, this worked the other night. There, we just have to be really strict with it. Okay. You were so happy to see me. Yes, you were. It was nice to be greeted accordingly. You do love me. You don't just tolerate my existence. You do love me. Yeah. Is that so? And baby Peebro. I haven't weighed you in a couple days. Are you any bigger? Are you? Are you? Little doll face. Yeah, clean your tent tomorrow. You made a mess today. You and Doodle. Okay. Go be wild and free. Wild and free like a real kitty. Your little poofy tail. Her tail is so thick, but like she's turning into a short hair cat everywhere else. I don't know what she's gonna look like when she's grown up. I'm so curious. Come here, Claudia. You just want to play and jump around. Do, 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 do. Jump around. Jump around. They're getting less grumbly with each other. It's like half playful, half caution still. But they're getting playful with each other. You did a little launch at her earlier. Not in a mean way, in a playful way. It was very cute. You be going to town on her tree. Don't scratch on that. She scratches so gently, though. She puts her claws out because she doesn't dig them in. It's just like a little foot massage. Come here, Slippy. Come here. Hi. I know, Peeps went for a swat. She just wants to play with you. She just wants to play with you. Don't snub my toes. You don't need to know about my toes. Hi, Miss Ma'am. Hi, Miss Ma'am. You're such a good girl. Such a beautiful little lady. Little sweet pea. Little sweet pea. There's Peeps. See, friends. Or at least tolerating each other. That's good enough for me. And drinkies. Drinky drinkies. Peeps. Snick. Peebee. I feel like if I didn't know that Peebee could hear, I would think that she's deaf. She doesn't, like, listen. She doesn't respond to normal cat sounds. Yeah, I get it. She was born outside. She was, like, essentially born probably feral, but... You gotta, like, listen. I'd love to have her clicker trained, like Slavka. Or, like... And then she comes out of wherever she's hiding. Because I feel like you're a wily booger, too. You are. You're a wily little booger. What you doing? You want to drink with Claudia? I mean, like, pipe cleaner. Pipe cleaner is best cat toy, I swear. I swear. Cheapest and best are like the cat dancer toy. But that's just like a wire pipe cleaner situation. Welcome to Mad Topher. I think it very much is selective hearing. Like, she just doesn't care what I have to say. It's typical child. Peebee, do the dishes. What? I can't hear you, Mom. Peebee, take out the garbage. What? Bloop, 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 bloop. Bloop, 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 bloop. Come here, Tiny. She's getting so big. Will you let me weigh you? I haven't weighed you in a few days. Wait, there you go. Come here. Don't do bounce. You can see how big you is. It's not Claudia. Ooh, 23.89. You haven't gained any weight at all. But you haven't lost any. 2,389 grams, if anyone wants to do the mathematical conversion for pounds. And you're going to be 31 weeks old tomorrow. Which is crazy. Last time I weighed her was on the 1st of July. And she was 23.29. So you went up like 60 grams. Dang, girl. I think that's like a little over 5 pounds. I don't know metrics. They're starting to play. I'm so proud of them. Welcome, Midnight Dynamite. I hope you're having a good weekend so far. I hope everyone's having a good weekend so far. May the fireworks shut the fuck up for everyone and not bother the fur babies. How do your cats do with fireworks, Mantover? Do you get Independence Day fireworks up in Canada? Mr. Midnight Dynamite. I like this dress too. Thank you. Just going through the delves of my closet because I didn't feel like cosplaying tonight. I have zero energy. It's like, what do I wear? Like, oh, that hasn't come out in a while. I think I last wore this for a family party. Like, I think either 4th of July or Easter. Because there's a brooch pinned into it. I was dressing to impressing. I don't do that for anyone but family. I'm so close to the border, you can hear them. I believe it. This year is Maybe it's just because, like, America's 250th. This year has been so much worse of fireworks than any other year. Like, fireworks must be cheaper than groceries right now because people have stocked up. It's an economy boost. They hide that you're out of town for the 4th. I'm glad you got to have a little break from life. I'm sorry they hide, though. Tank was upset for the first time this year. Diesel and Ringo were upset, like once it started getting really, really loud, which they were just babies last year. So it makes sense that they would have ignored it, and now they hear it. Zeke wasn't a fan of it. He was kind of freaking out. This is his first 4th that I've had him. Poor buddy. Gigi was upset. Doodle was upset. And everyone else was just fine with it. Ty, I'm surprised, wasn't freaked out, but it was like raining, storming at the same time. And he doesn't like that part of it. He doesn't like the rain or storms. But he doesn't shake from thunder like Chauncey used to. And Chauncey would shake just if there was barometric pressure change like 40 minutes away. But everyone else did really good with it. Ty was, I'm really surprised, okay with the fireworks. He didn't mind them too much. I'm very proud of him. And Kat doesn't love them, but she's bothered by many other things. Yeah, she has other priorities to worry about. Welcome, Cryogenics. They are getting along nicely. Is she eating? Oh no, she's up there now. Not eating PB's food. She likes to try to eat PB's food. They've been a little bit playful with each other. Claudia is still cautious and like she'll forget that she's being friends with PB. And then she's like, out of nowhere. But I'm not worried about anyone hurting the other one. They're doing very well together, all things considered. Claudia had an adoption event on Friday, and obviously she came back home. But she was so happy to see me when I picked her up. She was like in the corner of her cage, all worried. And then she saw me and she's like, meow, 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 meow. And even the coordinator there was like, okay, she's ready to go home, Mom. I'm like, don't guilt trip me. Don't guilt trip me. Claudia's a really good cat. She would be a good starter pack cat. Kind of like how I used to describe Voya. She doesn't have, like, a mean bone in her body. I don't think she has a tolerance. Like, some cats are just, like, nice up to a threshold. Then they're like, I'll bunny kick you. Fuck you. Even if they're just being playful. And she doesn't really have, like, a threshold like that. She's just a good cat all the time. What are you doing, PB? Bloop, bloop, bloop. I thought that was closer than it was. Do you want your this? Oh no, we want to watch bird TV. The TV of the burbs. I know they're so big, PB. The bird is the same size as you. What are you gonna do about that? What you gonna do about that? Bloop, bloop, bloop. Bloop, bloop, bloop. You have a hard time imagining yourself dropping off your cat or a dog at an adoption event. It's the part where you can't peel around and head back home and gun it for the border. It's very sad. I just about cry every time I do it because it's like, I know that I'm leaving you in a situation that you're going to be scared of, but I want her to have her best chance at finding a family. And my social media can only go so far because Serena in one world, mystery human in another. Baby girl. I have been posting her on like the neighborhood app though. And a few people have been commenting on how cute she is. So hopefully she suckers them in. She's so easy to take like cute pictures and videos though. She's very performative. I want to start teaching her tricks. I found a channel on YouTube that I want to start with her. It's called Cat School. And I feel like someone will be like very willing to adopt a cat that does tricks because why not? And also we live in the like age of social media. They could make her like a little Instagram or a TikTok. Bloop bloop. She's very smart and very willing to please. So I'm curious how like in tune to it she'll be. Because who doesn't want a trick cat? That's cool. Cats that act like dogs are people's favorites. And I feel like that would balance out like her shyness. So if someone was trepidatious about her because she's a little bit shy at first, knowing that she does tricks would, one, help her come out of her shell because she'd be motivated to perform or at least get treats. And it'd be a cool trade-off. It'd be worth it. I like the idea of that. Welcome, Nikki. Hope you're having a good night so far. Happy Sunday fun day. It's been almost a week since I've seen you guys. I worked so much last week. It was so nice to have two really awesome dogs to share, though. The first one I did was really elderly, so I shaved him down off stream because I didn't know how he would, like, stand or react to anything. But he was the perfect dog. So I was like, oh shit, I need to flip on my camera for this. Bloop, bloop, bloop. My coworker keeps telling me to stream at work. I'm like, but what if something goes wrong? What if the dog just bites me out of nowhere? I don't want that on camera. I don't need to shame them like that. Doot, doot, doot. I was supposed to have a cat today, but work flooded. There was like 3 feet of water outside and like 1.5 feet inside. So we just cleaned up the shop today, and it's mostly all back together. They're gonna have to talk to the landlord about replacing the floors because they're all, instead of like straight, they're all buckling up. Bloop, 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 bloop. And I'm sure there's still water underneath the floor. It was so fucking nasty because it filled up to where like the sewers are, so it was all sewer water in there and just. So I know I promised my next stream would be Harley first of the month, but I don't have the energy for that tonight. Maybe tomorrow. We'll try for tomorrow. Tomorrow. Pretty good so far. Just have to get off gaming for. Oh my god, I can't read. This is size 2 font. Bear with me. Just got off gaming to Need for Speed Rivals in the PS3 console tonight. Ooh, nice! PS3 is one of my favorite consoles. I love my PS3. Yeah, the work flood was crazy. So I thought maybe like we're in like a valley. It's like there's a hill at the first light and then there's a hill at the second light, and the whole shopping mall kind of goes like this. And we're at the ass end of it. But we were talking to the people at the barber shop 2 stores over, and they've been there 10 years, and I guess that's never happened before. So I don't think it's likely to happen again. But it was so nasty. It was so awful. It was so stinky. And all I could think, like, from the camera pictures that my boss sent us from inside, it looked like all of my equipment was soaked. Like, we had about 2.5 feet of water in there. But it was only about 1 foot of water, thankfully. To open the door and opened the floodgates. But all of my equipment was okay. And my spare stuff box that I had on the floor in, like, a case or whatever, it stayed waterproof because I could see the grime, like it got covered, but everything in there was safe, thank God. So all of my equipment was probably like around $1,000 when I would have first bought everything minus my backups, and all I could think was like it's gonna be $1,500 to $1,800 to replace everything if I need to. Because my scissors and my blades, if they would have gotten wet, would have started rusting immediately after drying out, which means it would have been too late today. But thankfully, everything was fine. I was so relieved. I was so relieved. You be as a snake. As a snake. 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 She's so silly. I can't believe that happened, though. Like, what the fuck? It makes sense, though, because there's, like, a neighborhood behind us of, like, townhomes, and everything must have run off of there, and just being the lowest point, that's where the sewers would have backed up. And once that's full, there's nowhere for it to drain into. I could not believe it. I was panicking all of yesterday. Like, my stuff is ruined. It's ruined. If you could write smaller, I would. If you could write smaller, I just wouldn't be able to read it. You'd be talking to yourself. Oh my goodness. The more speed points you banked on Need for Speed Rivals, the more you can use it on new cars, upgrades, and pursue new tech upgrades. I think I remember that from when my nephew was playing it years ago. He liked Need for Speed. You can salvage the scissors, but the blades would be too hard. The scissors, possibly, depending on the level of rust, I could take them in to get sharpened if they would have gotten ruined. And that might have taken some of the rust off of them if they would have gotten ruined. But essentially, they would have been like 99% cooked. Because at that point, if they were rusty and they did have to get sharpened, they probably wouldn't be able to be sharpened again after that. Because you can only sharpen things to a certain point, like so many times, and then you have to replace it because it just can't be sharpened anymore. So it would only buy me time for like another 6 months. I'm very relieved. Very relieved. All I could think was all of my equipment and my backup equipment is ruined. But everything survived. The dryers survived. Everything was okay, except the floors are just fucked. And that's fine. That's the landlord's problem. It's the landlord's problem. You just love your pipe cleaner. Alright, Miss Deebs, we gotta be zooming. Because chat phone is gonna die. A veteran racer boy. I like how you phrase that. I used to love Ridge Racer on PS1. That's like the only racing game that I've ever been good at, and I loved it so much. But I think that was literally just like map memorization. I don't think I was actually a good driver, but once I had the map memorized, I could drive efficiently. If you could write in old people-sized font, you would. You just need some granny glasses. You'd be talking to yourself also, because I'm not getting my glasses. You guys can have your own fun little monologues with each other. I have 23% battery on here, so we're zooming. Actually, Peebs, you're gonna be in charge for a sec. I gotta pee. As you put yourself into your house. Okay, good night, PB. I love you. She good nighted herself. Not knighted, but good nighted. Claudia, you're in charge for a moment. Let's see. Hi, baby. Mr. Tank, Mr. Gustav. It's just so much cleaning today. So much. Oh, it's nuts. They did take us out for like, I don't know, we went to a breakfast place, but like for lunch/dinner after, which was really nice. But I didn't drink enough water while I was there, so I've been chugging it since I got home. I'm probably gonna pee 1,000 times tonight. Claudia is such a talker. I feel like that's like a wonderful redeeming adoption quality for her. Oh, when I picked her up, I saw her little like advertisement card, I guess. And I got her backstory. She was found with her brother as a tiny stray in April of last year. So she is a little bit over a year old. Hello, Slavka. Slavushka Maruska. Slavushka Maruska. Hello, tiny baby. Quick. Big zoo sabbatical. Where's your mother? Hello, Mom. Hello, Mom. I think it would be impossible to not recall playing Ridge Racer. I put so many hours into it. That was my winter break and spring break guilty pleasure. I don't remember playing too much video games over the summer, though. I'd just be out playing with friends. Hi, kid. You're such a floofaloof. Hello. I feel like the most powerful creature when these two are beside me. Like I have steeds following me into battles of war. Hello, babies. Hello, babies. I love you. Charlie, you could come over too. I'll try and keep Slavka from you. I was in with Gigi last night, and Slavka was fucking with Charlie, and Slavka like backflipped into the door and scared the shit out of both of us. Poor Gigi was like very off-put over all the fireworks. Like, I'm so sorry, honey. And Tank was so scared. I don't remember him being scared last year. So he came in, I think, like July 18th, 2024. So last year would have been his, ow, your nails are long. His first 4th of July, and he didn't really care from what I remember. Kid, you're clawing into me. I don't have my clippers right now. That hurts. That hurts. Hello, babies. He was horrified. I think it didn't help that it was storming at the same time, too. Bloop, 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 bloop. They canceled the shows by work, but they didn't cancel the shows by me, and my neighbors hella took advantage of when the shows were going off to light off exponential amounts of their own shit. It was just like, Jesus Christ. Calm down. Diesel was so terrified. I felt so bad. I felt so bad. Little goobers. There's more going off tonight, but significantly less, thankfully. There's no shows to hide behind. Only drunk people actions. What is in your tail? Hello, Mama. Are you saying hi to everyone? You're the baby. You're so cute and silly. Is that your mama? Mama, 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 mama. They love each other. I love that they love each other. You circle each other like sharks. Aw, ooples. Hello, kid. You have very long nails right now. We have to do your nails tomorrow. They're a big mess. They're a big mess. You need a pedicure. You're climbing over me to get to your kid. But that's little kid. Get out of her butt. Slavka's such a butt sniffer. It's so gross. No one else in my house is a butt sniffer, except Slavka and Diesel, which kind of makes sense. They're the same energy kind of animals. 2 speeds. Stop and go. Stop and go. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Void is becoming such a lap cat, too. I love her journey. You were never meant to be outside in the streets. She was hiding, but she wasn't necessarily, like, scared last night. She was just hiding like she does during storms. Void is sensitive. She's so shiny. How are you so shiny? You're so sleek. So sleek. I think her and Charlie are getting a little less round. You've had a bit more playtime and food control. A little less round. Yes. No, Void's just snuggling in for the night. Bloop. Protect your dignity. Floop, floop. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Don't be a butt sniffer like your daughter. I mean, I could sneeze like super loud upstairs and Void will go under the couch. So I don't think she was too terrified. She was just being overly cautious. If there's any random loud sound, or like the dog has dropped their bone, she just goes under the couch. Couch girly. Couch gremlin. Alright, let's go see Mr. Tank. I'm running out of battery. I forgot to charge the chat phone. My foot is stuck in my dress. There. Slavka! Let go of my dress. Let go. Let go. Let go of my ego. Let go of my ego. You're such an asshole. I love that for you. No, it's not a toy. It's a dress. Slavka. Let go. Okay. Thank you. Goofy ass. She got stuck in like one string of it. I thought she was holding on to the whole thing, but she just got stuck on a string. Tank has the loudest TV and fans right now because fireworks. You poor frightened little baby. Come here. He's been so snuggly too. Come here. Hi. Love you. I miss you. Yeah, she says no, you stay. Tank is just an old man. If you don't turn it up to 100, then he can't hear the TV. Just kidding. Trying to just drown out the scary sounds. But he's not hiding tonight. I'm surprised. There's way less going off outside, though. He just kept coming out, like, when I would come in here. Because he was hiding down behind here. In, like, the little... underneath the headboard. And he kept looking up at the window up there. Like, what is going on out there? Is it safe? Is it okay? Will we survive? I know, you're running out of battery. Don't remind me. Tank is the loudest TV and fans because he's cat me. I think the boys upstairs have gotten beat, honestly, but I do keep it pretty loud in here for him at the time being. Usually I keep his TV at like 50, but we have it at 100 for tonight and last night. Hello. You're my baby beau. You're my baby beau. I love you, Tankero. You're just a short-haired doodle. I have two twin cats. A long-haired doodle and a short-haired tank. Hi, buddy. Doodle had his neuter and eye nip tuck on. Yeah, you just want your snacks. On Thursday. And I think tomorrow I'll let him out of the tent. Maybe tonight. He gets really fussy when I take him out to give him his meds and then put him back in. He's like, do not put me back in here. I'm not meant to be confined. So he's going to be upset about that tonight when we give him his meds, and I'm going to have to run back and forth and fix it for him. Because that's just how we do. But I think tomorrow I'll try and give him a free run of the room. Because then he'll be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday will be 4 days post-op. Which I think is a fair amount of time for him to be, like, relatively healed. The neuter isn't a big deal. Like, he could run around with that pretty much just fine. And there's only one tall thing he can jump on in there. But I just don't want him to rub his eyes on anything. Because he has the cone on, but he still goes into things, like, around his litter box and, like, rubs his face on it. It's like, dude, Doodle, stop. He's all stitched up over there. They did both of his eyes, which I didn't expect. I thought it would just be the left one because that was the worst, but they went above and beyond and did both, which was wonderful. He looks like a little Franken kitty right now, though. Oh, what was I telling him he looked like earlier? He looks like, so the way they shaved around his eyes and the way his face hair still is there, he looks like Count Olaf from A Series of Unfortunate Events. He looks just like him, and it's throwing me off so hard. It's so cute. It's so funny. Little Count Olaf. It's bonkers. All right, Tanky. Your stuff goes back on. There we go. I love you. I need to kiss your butt. I love you. I love your butt. You're my favorite butt. Love you. Butt smooches. Butt smooches. We see Goose Goose and then Doodle and his meds. Bloop, bloop. Yeah, Count Olaf was the Neil Patrick Harris character. Like, the way his mutton chops and, like, his hair flips is exactly how Doodle looks right now with his head hair. His head hair. He's a cat. Like, he doesn't have facial hair, but he does. I don't know the word to use. Oy. And we're overboard. Door's locked. Pepper! Do I have shorts for you? You need shorts. They might all be in the laundry. I don't know. I would think there would be at least one pair up here. No? Really? That's rude. I'm lazy. We'll get one of these for her. Maybe's old lady days used to be sporadic, and now they just seem to be continuous, which is fine. But that means I need to remember all the time to put a diaper on her, otherwise there's messes to clean up. Come here, lady. Let me see your butt. Thank you. I'm giving you guys my butt, and I didn't mean to do that. I can't do this on her unless I'm backwards over her. And she happens to be facing you guys. Oh, that's too loose. Hold on to your legs. Jeez. Okay. Shorts acquired. Shorts acquired. Fancy Pippi. Mr. Gustav. Gustav gave up his bedroom for Doodle to have it, so he could have his tent. So Gustav is in the bathroom. Not the happiest about it, but he's not like freaking out upset. I haven't gotten bit over it. Thanks to Charlie, we know that cats can have facial hair. Yeah, because she's a little kittler. A little mustache cat. Hello, Gustav. Hello. He got annoyed with me earlier and he gave me his claws a little bit, but in like a push away kind of way. He was very polite about telling me no, which was nice. Baby goose. Baby goose goose. And your collection of food. Oh my goodness. I have to start you on dewormer tomorrow and I don't want to. Because you're not going to like it. You're not going to want to eat it. No, you're not. Come here. Uppy. Uppy. He's so cross-eyed. He just looks at me like this. It's so cute. Mr. Gustav. He was pretty upset about it the first day. He was trying to break out. Like, he pulled apart the thing blocking the bottom of the door, but he's been fine with it since. I think it was just too many changes for him all at once versus being in here. Because he went from the front room to the bedroom to in here. And it was just too much too fast. But you gotta have air conditioning, and Doodle needs space. Because I realized too, with him being neutered, he could not come back to the bathroom because he would jump up here, and that's way too high to jump after you get the good old snip snip. Hi. Love you, buddy. Hi. How you doing, Papa? Try not to show off your butt, please. Either he has big empties or he still has balls. I realized that the other day. I think you're due for a neuter, maybe. Maybe. I wonder how they determine that. Maybe they'll shave his belly to see if he has the tattoo that says he's neutered. Yeah, it got way too warm in the room that I had him in at first. There's not good ventilation or circulation in there. And the time I was moving him, it was like up to 80 degrees in there, which is probably tolerable, but way too warm, in my opinion. No kiss? It's okay. You don't have to like kisses. You just have to like chin rubs. He's really into the chin and cheeks. I really love seeing like parts of Voya in every single cat that I meet now. Like Voya, I used to always say cheeks and chin. Cheeks. No, no, is that too much? So he's very gentle about telling me no now. That was overstimulating. Cheeks and chin. Cheeks and chin. What are you feeling? You show me how you want love. If you just want to hang out, we can do that too. Yes. It's a good boy. He's very sensitive to energy. Like, I feel very excitable tonight. And it seems like when I feel excitable, like he can pick up on that. And he gets kind of overwhelmed by it. Hi. I have to put myself into sleep mode. Are you going to say hi to chat? Say hi, Club Cult. I am Gustav the Giardian. He's so pretty. You're such a pretty boy. He's very curious what you guys are doing up there. What's that tripod, baby goose? Just checking you guys out. Making sure you're not sus. He's such a beautiful cat. I think he lived solo, so I'm curious to see like if he gets along with other cats. You're so stealthy. Hi. Bloop, bloop, bloop. He's gorgeous. He's just a fancy mutt. He's like a doodle. It's a Lynx Point Siamese, which is a fancy word for a Siamese cat that's been bred with a tabby. He's like a doodle. He's just a fancy mutt. The doodle I had the other day was so good. I was shocked. And then I had, oh God, at the end of the day on Friday, I had like the dinosaur grandpa of doodles. It was a doodle who was like 13 years old. I've never met an old doodle, like ever. I've never even seen an old doodle, to my knowledge. What are you doing? You're silly. Yeah, you're silly. He was like 13 years old. He was so cute and sweet, and he was such a good boy too. But I was too tired to put on my stream for that. I was ready for the day to be over. Friday was hella booked. And then we had to reschedule all of our clients from today. And I was so excited. I had a cat to groom today, and they haven't rescheduled yet. But that's okay. I was so excited to have a kitty, though. What? Come here, buddy. Not that I can't just come home to like 10,000 cats, but still. Gustav. Now you're going to be fussy wussy. You're going to sit by the door. Boobala. Where's Muff's toy? There's Ball. Go see. Gustav is very playful. He's also a sink cat like dude, which is pretty cool. He's been hanging out in there. You're so funny. I didn't even think to put your toys in the whatchamacallit. Nope. What do you think about those? What are those? What are those? I feel like toy in the sink is endless playtime because every time he moves it just a little, it's gonna move more on its own. Like just the curvature of the sink. Hi, baby. I love you. Are you a sensitive boy tonight? A playful little man. It's like, oh, this is great. Why didn't Mom think of this sooner? Should I just fill it up with like ping pong balls so he has a ball pit? Do you think he would like that? I think that's a possibility. Oh, you got it. You got it. Oh, it did. Hole in one. What I do is water. Hole in one. Easy. Now it's all wet. Nope. I didn't expect that would be such a barrel full of monkeys. Get it! Get it, get it, get it! Do you want hungries and thirsties now? Shake it off. Shake it off. Kat recently unearthed a Christmas ornament that she stole. If you leave your drawer open, she hanks it back out. Aw. Little chaos gremlin. I love that for her. A very good shot. Hole in one. Pretty amazed that he managed to do that. I wonder if it was on purpose. He's very smart. I feel like for him it would be on purpose. He's very calculated. He's Calculon. Gustav, the Calculon. That's your carrier, bub. Bub, 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 bub. I didn't end up having to go in until 10:30 today because they didn't think the damage would be that bad for some reason. I don't know. So we just came in like an hour before the first two clients, and that's when we assessed the damage, and it was, of course, bad. Hi. But I still woke up at 4:30 because I was planning on coming in early to clean. My cat wasn't until 11:30. It wasn't supposed to be. I'm like, okay, we'll get a head start on cleaning. And I asked, like, should I plan to come in around by 9? They're like, no, that's fine. Your first client is at 11:30. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Dramatic pause. And now we're hungry. Now we're gonna go see Mr. Doodle. Kind of a graphic warning. He's not like that bad looking, but if you're sensitive to like surgical sites, then graphic warning, I suppose. Excuse me, Mr. Gustav. I gotta ploop all of this around the door. Nope, no, we're not gonna play this game. Come on. He actually hasn't fussed at the door like this the whole time that he's been in here. Come on, son. Come here. It's like a little kid that knows he can get away with it. Come here. Come here, Papa Bear. I'm not gonna just smooch you out of the door. Alright, don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. Oh, good boy. I didn't have to lift you. Thank you. He's a very good boy. He's a very beautiful boy. A handsome man. Say hello. No, you gotta stay, sweet boy. Sorry. 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 You have the Giardia, regardless of however we would like anything else to be. You have the Giardia. I want to take a pit stop for coffee really quick before we go in this doodle. I gotta wash my hands. Ugh. Gudunk gudunk. Doodle is gonna be big energy because he's very sick of being in his tent. Understandably. Oh, Gunther is finally back in his chair. I'm so proud of you. You feeling a little better? He's been perking up a lot the last couple of days, which is nice. He's like, okay, I'm done being sick. I'm gonna be healthy now. You do have a booger in your inhalers still aren't filled yet though, which I would think the albuterol would be fast. But the fluticasol or whatever it is taking forever. Booger. Thank you. Good boy. Hi, Zeke. We love you too, buddy papa. We love you too. Zeke has been very clingy with the fireworks going off. He really hasn't been like hiding scared. He's just been like, Mommy, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me. Which, I mean, like, I knew Zeke liked me, but I didn't think that he really cared one way or another if I was close to him or not, if I wasn't just a lap. But the last couple of days have made me realize he does love me. He seeks me out as a point of comfort. Are you watching the emotes? He says smooches for me? For my fancy little self? Yes. Love you, baby gun. His respiration got down to 44 beats per, or 44 breaths per minute today, which was awesome. Before I left for the shop, he was breathing really good. What are you breathing at right now? $13, so he's at 52. I can't do math. I only know that because cards. That's still pretty good. He's back like at his normal, even though his normal is accelerated. Because little did we know, there's stuff blurping around in his lungs. Really glad he doesn't have a fungal infection. That would have been like 6 months of treatment minimum and wouldn't have been cheap, but not happy that we can't really do more than just manage his condition now with what we know versus like actually treat something. Perspective is so funny. I was so worried about treating the fungal infection when I thought that's what he had. And now it's just like, oh, we have something that we can't do anything to treat at all without putting him through hell, which we're not going to do. Like, fantastic. Mr. Doodle. Mr. Doodly-doo. Not really going to be able to be camera flexible because he's pretty wily about the situation at the moment. Mr. Doodle. How you doing today, son? Oh, dude. He gets so anxious with the fireworks and he vomits everywhere. I have to clean up. You did really good. You didn't puke all day, and now you puked your brains out, and you puked on your scratch pad, which means your scratch pad is garbage. I know. Wow. Don't step in it. Don't step in it. Don't step in it. Mom's gonna clean it up. Let me put this like as out of the way as possible, and I'm just gonna let him out, and then he's gonna be upset to go back in, but he has to come out to get his meds anyway, because I can't finagle them in there. Hi, buddy. Yeah, you got a big mess in there, Papa. It's okay. It's not your fault. Doodle gets stressed stomach. He's a very handsome little Franken kitty right now. He wears it well. Here's our camera perspective. Hi, dude. I'm not going to be able to touch chat or any of this for a few. You gotta clean up your messy. You gotta put me in the tent. Poor buddy. Poor buddy. Don't be too wily about uptime, okay? Don't be too wily. Hello, I love you. You gotta clean up, baby. You gotta clean up. Oh, I didn't mean to sit on that. Dang it. I cannot wait until you are out of this tent. It's too much going on in here, which is so funny. Like, PB's tent was so manageable in here. But PB didn't really care about running out of it. Hi, doodly doo. Hello, handsome boo. Let's get this out of here and into the garbage first. Behave yourself. Nope, 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 nope. There you go. Your poor little nervous tummy. I'm sorry people upset you with fireworks. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I love you. I missed you. Did you have a good day today? Did you have a good day today? Yeah. You got an upset tummy. Because stupid people are doing fireworks. Mom's gonna sick Ringo on them. Dude, don't hop ups. Ow. You gotta be a chili bean for a minute. Hi. You handsome boy. You handsome boy. You gotta do your box too while we're in here. Okay. It happens to the best of us. Mommy gets a nervous stomach too. I do. Oh, I have something in my eye. That's not convenient. I don't know if that fixed it or not, but it's gonna have to be good enough for the moment. And getting your potty box stuff. And getting your potty box stuff. And use this pipe. Ow, what is in my eye? That hurts. It hurts. I am one with the tent. See, Doodle, it's not that bad in here. It's not that bad. Be mindful of your surroundings. Please, please, Good job. You did good BBs today. I am proud of you. Shout out to your first night here when you didn't pee for like 23 hours and scared the daylights out of me. We're gonna fill those up. I'm just gonna do your meds first. It's so hard to do his meds because he has like no scruff. He got his chest shaved for his surgery too. Because he was all matted there. I'm like, I can probably manage it, but it'd be best to do like while he's knocked out. That would be nice. Meds. You gotta take your anti-inflammatories. You gotta take your anti-inflammatories. Yes, you do. Ready? I need some of your neck shrivies. Okay, ready? Loop. Good job. Good job. See, that one doesn't taste so bad. It's not like Doxy. Doxy tastes terrible. I would think. I don't know. Everyone always hates the taste of it. I was giving it to Claudia. She would spit it out everywhere and start foaming about it. Hi, baby boy. I love you so much. We're going to fill up your bowls. Little feather duster tail. You're such a handsome scrum. He's just very, like, Frankenstein looking at the moment. See if I can finagle this. Hi, Doodle. He's all shaved around his eyes, so all he has is, like, his little mutton chops on the side. He looks like Count Olaf. I don't know how else to describe that. You look like Count Olaf. You're very cute. You're very petite and sweet. I love you, Mr. Doodle. I love you, Mr. Doodle. The dude. Just don't let anyone pee on your rug. Mr. Doodle. Oh, Doodle! That's what we're not doing. I knew you were going to try it. Let me get this for you. Hi. Hello. We can't jump up on there. We can't jump up on things right now. You're still healing. You got the neuter in the eyeballs. Yes, you did. He's like, guys, tell her I can jump wherever I want. There you go. That'll lure him back in. But then he's going to take down the tent about 1,000 times. Took it down like 5 times while I was eating dinner last night. I had Gunther on my lap, and Gunther kept going on my lap. I just had to keep, like, flopping him over. Interrupt my dinner. Come back in. Fix his things. Plop him over. Come back in here. Plop him over. Come back in here. It was chaos. I was so late getting to bed last night with all the fireworks and the dogs, and I was meal prepping yesterday. I cooked a bunch. It was not a convenient timeline. Doodle, we love you. You thirsty little biscuit. You thirsty little biscuit. Hi. You're gonna be mad now because you're back in your tent, and I'm sorry. He's waiting for me to lay down on the couch with him because I've been sleeping in here. Which I feel bad being away from Gunther and Zeke, and I don't want to, interrupt their, I don't know, consistency, but I also want to be able to watch him at night at the very least. Hi, BB. I love you. Please don't do tent takedowns, okay? Pretty please. Pretty please. Either tomorrow or if I'm off work on Wednesday, I think I'll let him fully out of the tent because he should be recovered enough to not have it like be a worry at that point. Yeah, not the rug, man. Not the rug, man. He is rebuilding. It's going to be the most handsome, full-fledged kitty when he is all healed up. I wonder how long it'll take the hair to grow back, like, around his eyes. He's funny looking. In, like, the cutest way, though. He's just a silly guy. Welcome, Smokes. Thank you so much for the 19 months. You are awesome. Thank you. Oh, so mucho. I still need to do the board for July. It's not been done yet. Yeah, Frankendoodle indeed. He looks silly. He looks like Count Olaf. Don't want this. Very Count Olaf vibes. Like, whereas I didn't even put on the picture. There. It's like the same look. Tell me that doesn't look like the same person. They're the same. It looks just like him. I can't, like, not see it. I don't know. Yeah, twinsies. Oh, that one's less clear of him. It's only when I have him, like, facing forward, though. Zeke was being so snuggly last night. He said, Mom, make the fireworks stop. Poor boy. Poor boy. I cannot believe I trapped that raccoon! Again? You see if I can pull up the video of me reasoning with him. So I want to put up doodle cam anyway. Has he knocked over his tent yet? There's something in my eye. It feels horrible. Ah, he's behaving himself. How do I skirp this in for this device? It would help to not have TeamViewer offloaded. I don't know if my eye's just irritated or if there's a hair. This one is weird to figure out because it's a different device. And it functions differently for whatever reason. What do you mean sign in? I don't know what my login is. There's my email for it at least. Did I link it with Google? Maybe? I feel like I would have done that out of like just convenience. What might my password be? Probably that? No. I know a better way to do this. Just airdrop it onto this one. That's easier. There's me reasoning with my raccoon friend. Where? There. There, now I can watch Doodle on this. While I set this up. Owie! I don't know what is going on there. This should connect flawlessly though. I would think. Yes. I wonder if audio will go through with it. It should. It's probably gonna take up the whole screen. Yep. Oh, I don't know what I have for media in here. I don't know what I use for what. There's the camera on here. There, photos. It feels like there's like a pebble or something in my eye. I don't really know what's going on with that. As soon as I get this set up, I'm gonna run to the bathroom for a minute. It's not itchy, it just feels like there's something stabbing my eye. It's either mascara or a Hera. I don't know which. Some background intel first. There's a lot of stuff on my desk right now, I'm now realizing. Like, way too much. There's fur babies. My eyes are tired. It happened again. I thought they were chewing through it though, and instead they're climbing on the top.
Really?
I was annoyed, but then I had an immense amount of empathy. And his paw was not stuck. I thought it was at first. He was just being dramatic and had it like reached up through. But sometime in between these two clips is when it closed. Like they're crawling around all over it and it's still open. And then suddenly it's closed. You can see the zip ties just falling off. There was 5 of them out there. It was a mama and 4 kids. Kids. I don't know. The one inside that got trapped didn't even realize he got trapped at this point. He's still at the bowl, like... You ever seen the raccoon hot dog guy? No. Is he supposed to be local to me? It just was quite the experience. I wonder if this will put audio through. Oh, it doesn't? I'll try and narrate the moments here. So this is him being sweet-talked and me telling them that he can go outside and it's okay and it's safe. It wasn't his fault that he wanted to stay in there because there were fireworks going off and it was storming at the same time. So like he was overly traumatized plus being trapped. And this is the point I think where I was asking if I can pet him. Like, what do I do with you? I can't bring you inside, but like, do I need to bring you inside and what's happening here? And look at those puppy dog eyes. Like, he was giving me such puppy dog eyes. Like, that is the face of an animal that says, bring me inside. I get why people do stupid things with wildlife now. Because, like, he's a puppy dog baby. And I turned off the clip to try and pet him. And then he finally ran out. Because I figured, like, okay, if you just refuse to, like, run away, and if you are friendly somehow and you let me pet you, then I will just take you inside and shelter you in the entryway for the night. I mean, he would make a fucking mess and destroy everything, but I don't know what to... Look at these puppy dog eyes! How do you say no to that face? Like, that is puppy dog face. 100,000,000%. How do you say no to that? He was so cute, but he did not want me to pet him. And then he ran out after that. But he was being so dramatic, just like clinging to the sides. Like, I'm sorry the world is scary. I'm sorry people are stupid. I thought about getting him some apples too, but I can't hold open the trap. Like, there's no way to like prop it up without setting it. I didn't want it to like get set and then smack back down on him. I thought about going to get him some apples and like see what he would do if he would eat it out of my hand. I don't know. I know it would be insane. Like, for the record, I know it would be insane to bring a raccoon inside. I know that. I'm very aware of that. But the face he was making and the fact that he wouldn't run away really had me questioning what the right thing to do there. Raccoons are so energetic and require like special enclosures There's a few channels I follow on YouTube and Instagram of people who have pet raccoons, and it takes a lot of work and care. Like, you'd think they'd be just like snuggly chill like bandit cats, but they're very adventurous, they're very curious, they're very troublemakery. It was very hard for me to not bring him in too. I figured that was my ultimate decision of if he would let me pet him, then I would be able to bring him inside for the evening and let him ride out the sounds outside. But as soon as I went to pet him, he went back. Went back to his family. Yeah, must resist the urge to pet and adopt. As an older fellow would feed his local raccoons hot dogs. I mean, there's something healthier he could feed them than hot dogs. It's not the greatest thing in the world. You could just set up an enclosure for the mouse. Like when I had Clyde, his first couple nights here, he was in like a turtle tank. Before I got him like a big rat house. He was just so cute. I'm gonna go see what the fuck is up with my eye, but you guys can enjoy this puppy dog faced creature. He was so cute. I loved him. He's just a baby. He's just a baby. He was barely as big as Gunther. It was a big, nasty work floof. Big, nasty work floof. It's just a little baby. It's just a little guy. He's so cute. It's so tiny. Oh, hi, Marbles. He was so cute. I loved him so much. I would have taken him inside if he would have let me. Let me open Discord back up. We're gonna recap a little bit. I would like to paint tonight. Perfect timing. I just closed out of it. I don't like leaving Discord to run in the background though, because it takes up a lot of shit. It's redonkulous. Oh, I think I have seen this guy.
Let's go.
I shouldn't be feeding them hot dogs though. That's not healthy.
This is crazy. This is crazy. You know, there's gotta be 30
I think there's more
raccoons at
floof in
least.
my eye.
I don't know where they
Still.
all come from. Oh my
They come because you feed them.
Yeah, they all love me. Because I get the food.
Oh, Doodle's being such a good boy. He's not taking down his tent.
Yeah.
Last 2 nights he's been taking it down as soon as he goes back into it.
There you go.
If you feed them, they will come. And if you feed them in a trap, they will trap themselves, whether
Things
it's...
settling down.
Oh, I thought I was showing this. I'm tired. Whoops.
I got 8 pounds of hot dogs here in this
Open.
bucket. Woo, things are settled down. Finally, holy smokes. Yeah.
They're so fat, like they're obese. You shouldn't be feeding them that.
2 hands going here.
Like apples would be better.
Yeah, they're all good. I'll tell you, see, they're really, really super hungry because of the cold. And it's -6 here right now, Celsius.
Sheesh. It's very cold.
So it's below freezing.
Some kind of like vegetables, like apples or
There you
celery,
go.
carrots.
So they,
This might be the same guy that would feed them dog food. His very fat trash pandas. Oh, hell yeah.
Traffic is, the 2 bridges are closed in Halifax because of accidents. And, there you go.
One just slammed into the camera.
Yes.
I like the one just like praying over his shoulders.
I got the whole.
Tag yourselves. Which raccoon are you?
Holy
I'm
smokes.
this one.
I bought 20 pounds.
The one
of
over his
hot dogs
shoulders.
today at Walmart. Look at this. Holy smokes. Everybody's starving. See,
Voya had a
it's
perfect
made to
raccoon
tell 'em
tail.
They got to get this.
They
going
kind of did okay with it on the cuddle
because,
pond.
they're not going to be able to eat after, once the temperature starts.
They didn't do the
dropping,
stripes like
it's below
perfectly, and the tip of his tail, the black was longer, like to about here. But Voya had a perfect raccoon tail,
From 25,
like the same stripes.
24 Fahrenheit. Ready?
Bloop bloop bloop.
Man, oh man. This is crazy.
It's not uncommon for cats to have ringtails, but Voya's was very prominent.
Oh my God, buddy! Take it easy.
Disclaimer should be said though, don't feed the wildlife. 1, it's illegal. 2, it disrupts their ecosystem. I only accidentally feed the wildlife because I feed the cats. Let's see, which match was first? Sinners. Not that one. I think Eyeballers was today. Been playing decent, but Brokey got benched. Say that 5 times fast. So most photos are taken of you completely oblivious to the camera. Some highlights going. Went to work on Mr. Scott Pilgrim again. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Check in online before your upcoming visits. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I don't want to go. I don't want to. But I gotta. But I don't want to. Mostly because it's just more driving. I don't want to drive. Hopefully fuel is cheaper tomorrow, though. I'm at like a half tank. I need to fill up. Why does the fuel go down so fast once you're at a half tank versus a full tank? I feel like the full tank to like half point lasts forever and ever and ever. And then the half to like quarter tank where I fill up, so I don't let it get past like quarter tank unless I just can't avoid it. It goes down so fast. Why is that? What is the logic behind that? Charge. I don't think it's paying more attention. Like, literally, statistically to the mileage, I think my car just gets worse mileage. when it's at a half tank versus a full tank. I don't know enough about fuel injector systems to be able to figure that one out, but it's low battery syndrome. I feel like it just goes down like a third of the way faster than elsewise. But there has to be something weird about my car because when I fill it up all the way, every single time, if I fill it up to full, I have to fill it up to just before full, because if I fill it up to full, it dies on me, like within the first mile of pulling out of the gas station. So maybe it's like an internal issue that probably needs to be solved at some point. I don't think I have any less air in my tires. I check my tires quite frequently after I had a flat, because they'll get replaced for free if they go funky. Reality, it probably means your fuel gauge isn't accurate. Miles per gallon wouldn't change like that. Maybe the fuel gauge is wonky then. That makes every single vehicle that I've ever owned having a wonky fuel gauge, except for my first car. In the 3000 GT, the fuel gauge does not work at all. So you have to write down your filling and your miles and how much you put in. It always shows you have a full tank, which is nice visually, but not like correct life-wise. This doodle's still chilling. Don't take down the tent. Oh, good boy. He chilling. He taking a nap now. Whenever it tells you that you're empty, when you have a little bit less, you're more likely to fill it up. My car is old. I don't think it's that smart. It's 2005. Maybe in modern days that would be a thing. But I think my car is too old to be smart that way. As the tank gets more towards empty, the car is lighter and should be more fuel efficient if driving isn't a variable. It goes down faster the second half. Like measurably faster. It's actually quite weird. Now it's one of those, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of the Tootsie Pop problem? 1, 2, 3? The world may never know. The power of understanding. Paint some scat pilgrim. I don't know if I want my easel or not. I've been looking at this all week. I really like the last 2 weeks and wanting to work on it. Blur, blur. Actually, I can probably put this where my coffee is. There we go. Where is Gongzu? I'm guessing somewhere in China. It sounds Chinese, but it sounds like he's speaking Spanish. I need to learn Spanish. I'm surrounded by so much Spanish. It's in China. His R's are rolling though. I don't think he's speaking Chinese. I don't think Chinese has rolling R's. Many different variations of language, but I don't think there's rolling R's. Oh! Need a rag.
Thank you. 50 segundos. Modo. Haciendo la 9-10.
Smack you on the butt.
Oh, llegó. De un lado para el otro
This
también
is the brush I want. A tiny one.
Mosco.
A tiny one.
Mata twist. Quiere cerrar J Bowen. Ay. Ay.
Sometimes it's weird to paint on the easel.
Se le obliga
We'll
contra
see.
shock. Se empieza a meter Miserek, de ese cuadro todavía atrás. Se mete para rata, porque este muchacho tiene todo. ¡Jungla!
Oh yeah, I don't like that. I don't want to use the easel.
Mata twist. Claramente. La vuelta de la tercera DL. Otra más para
I think I am just gonna fill in the letters though instead of just doing outline. Because the O already got filled in, so like why not just go all the way with everything?
A ver.
Of. Of. Very bold of.
De cabecita, cuidado.
I think I need to replace these brushes too. They're starting to get a little thicker than they should, even though it's like tiny and thin. It's getting thick.
La profunda. Queriendo meter el calcito. Oh, se ve todo. Mitad de vidas.
And it like got warped too. It's all sideways. Looks like a dental tool.
No se come la bala,
I have to go to the dentist in a couple weeks. I don't want to.
Hay tiempo todavía.
I have to go for my 6-month checkup. But I don't have dental insurance anymore, so I have to pay for it out of pocket. I don't want to. It's not bad though. I think it's like $140 without doing x-rays. I don't think there's any reason to need to do x-rays. I don't need more of that in my life. I'd like to at least finish the lettering tonight, even if we don't get started on color.
We do. Tres.
Oh, it's categories. Just chatting. Not gonna be able to do the Harley that I wanted to do this month. So I haven't had time to do shit with my hair. But I am excited for the Harley I'm gonna put together. I have it all put together in my head. Just no energy for it tonight. Yeah, with the zoo, we could just stream anything in animals, aquariums, and zoos. Unless I have, like, the fake green screen up. Because they're everywhere. Case in point. Gunther in my hand.
We do. Comenzando la ronda número 11.
Almost dropped it.
Llegó con la primera. Tiene difícil con la red de Lidia. Corre por él.
I'm really mean just catting. Why not?
Preciso llegó.
There's a cat. It's apropos. 'Tis apropos, it is. The power of understanding. Painting letters is so awkward.
4-3. Reacciona se mete por liga. Estresar.
I think he is speaking Spanish. I don't know. Can you guys tell?
Decide Native. Solo él de momento pushando Frozen. Ay, me olvidó. Dando mejor posicionamiento Native. A comprometer.
My boss called me a good luck charm. Because I guess we've been booking like 3 times as much since I've been there. Which is cool. It's probably just the time of year, but cool. So they're hiring another girl too, but she doesn't speak any English. But I want to be able to communicate with her, so I'm going to have to figure out like a list of phrases to learn, more or less. Like to say like, oh, cute dog, and blah, 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 blah. It would be nice to have someone there that speaks Spanish, though, because me and the other girl don't. And then we have to call the boss man to translate. And that'll help a lot. She's really nice. We were able to communicate a little bit, and she was so sweet. I like her. To gustan los caballos? I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Do you like horses? Yeah, kind of. I'd like to be able to like compliment her, if not communicate. Like, good job, job well done. I had a dog that only speaks Spanish on Friday, or on Thursday. I was exhausting my Spanish supply for the dog. Like, tú es linda. Bueno. Un perro. Un perro. Siéntate. Dog only understood Spanish. The dog did not know English. And she was really nervous. So I was trying to like get on her level. And at some point I was just tired while I was grooming her because she was the last dog of the day. And I was like, yo quiero Taco Bell. Yo quiero Taco Bell. El Barco. I did learn dog in Spanish. Perro. Because cat is gato. And perro. But her name was Luna. So it was kind of useless to call her perro, but I was trying to like get on her level and let her know that I understand where she's at. Welcome, Box. Ever having a good night so far? Ever thought about how dogs would be trained to understand different languages around the world? Well, I mean, Chauncey only knew Spanish when I adopted him. I was trying to figure out why he wouldn't listen to like sit, stay, etc. But Chicago is very like high Spanish population. So I started telling him in Spanish and he listened. Eventually he learned English. But he only knew Spanish at the first time. The first like couple of months that I had him. Kind of a mind-blowing thought for the high mind. I would imagine so. It's not that like the dogs speak Spanish, it's just that's what it's familiar about hearing. It's your bi-yearly Taco Bell. I can't remember the last time I had Taco Bell. It's been a while. The restaurant we went out to today after cleanup, though, it was like half a breakfast place, half a lunch place, half a Mexican place. It was really nice. And then I learned it was kind of hard to communicate because he didn't know much English, but one of my boss's cousins was helping us clean everything up. And he used to be a police officer in Colombia. We were talking like during lunch, dinner, whatever we went out for, like trying to anyway. Because we were talking about video games and Halo and like shooting games and different things. And then like he brought up out of nowhere. Oh, it's because he was eating fast. And someone commented on that. And I guess when you're in like Mexican police, you have to eat your meal in less than 3 minutes in case some shit goes down. He was a super fast eater. It was really nice, though. It was a nice time out. It wasn't too difficult to communicate, but a little difficult. It's like I'm trying to like think in my head, like, what's the simplest way to say something? Instead of like truly communicatively, like I would in many words. So I had to like think before speaking. He's very helpful. And he liked the muffins I brought. Because before I knew everything flooded yesterday, I was baking muffins to bring to work. And I still brought them today. But like, dang. But he ate like 3 of them. I was like, yes, do it. Do it. Enjoy them. And my one coworker doesn't like bananas. So I had to use applesauce for like the egg portion instead of bananas. Which was fine. It turns out just as good. But I remembered at like the last second, like, oh, she doesn't like bananas. But you can't really taste them, but like, maybe you can if you don't like them. I don't know. I notice if there's green pepper in a dish and like there's only a little bit of it, but I don't like green peppers. It's no Taco Bells by you Smoops. I love authentic Mexican food. There's a lot of like taquerias around here, but there's one that I love the most. They have the best food. Like the best. And they also sell the the jalapenos and onions, like just wrapped up in foil, and they're so good. Those are my favorite. I feel like I'm a pretty fast eater, but he was like wolfing it down. But that makes sense. Like if you spent years having to eat super, super, super fast.
Entrando Twist por parte de Liga.
I really had to think before speaking. It was challenging. It made me feel quiet and awkward. Because, like, what is the simplest way I can say something so that it is understood and, like, translatable? It was funny, though. Everyone had drinks except for me because I don't drink. And we were talking about pescatarians for some reason because they were asking, like, how long I've been vegan and blah, 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 this, that, or the other. And he just comes out of nowhere, like, they should be called fishitarians because pesca in Spanish means raw fish or, like, alive fish, whereas pascal means cooked fish. So pescatarian doesn't really translate well in Spanish. He's like, they should be called fishitarians. And it cracked me up. I feel like a lot of men are fast eaters in general. Or like when you have a big family, you eat fast so no one steals shit off your plate. My godmother is a very fast eater. I think I'm a slower eater because I was an only child. And the rule was always to clean your plate too. So I would like drag it out for forever. I would be sat at the dinner table for like 2 hours finishing all of my bites. I was a very slow eater as a kid. I never had raw fish when I still ate meat. I had never tried sushi then, so I don't really know what it tastes like at all. I'd assume like similar, just like a texture and seasoning difference. Oh, that's an interesting alternate perspective. I think eating alone did it. Makes it more of a chore. Just get the fuck over with. Are you eating not good food? Are you eating like human dog food? You gotta savor the flavor. Savor it. Oh my goodness. Like even being an only child, like still having a bigger family and like people around that'll pick at your plate. I feel like that makes people fast eaters. My godmother eats fast and she has a huge family and 7 brothers and sisters. It was so nice though. I haven't been out to eat in forever. I really like the restaurant we went to today. That was really nice of them to do that. I mean, all in all, do what makes you feel the best. If you like eating fast and that's comfy for you, don't force yourself to change. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. Doesn't mean you have to show it. I can keep my opinion to myself just like I can keep my butthole to myself. Raw fish and sushi is pretty mild usually. Texture is pretty tender. Probably similar to like fake sushi that I've had then. Meyer always has. It's almost always on sale too. What's the brand? I think. Meyer has vegan sushi that has fake fish in it. Conscious. Their California roll, I think, has fake meat in it. Oh, 404 not found. Fuck you. There's salmon avocado rolls. They're plant-based. That one I haven't had yet. The poke bowl looks good. This one's yummy too. It has some kind of fake meat, something or another in it. For like frozen sushi, it's actually not that bad. It's really good. Why don't you open though? That's rude. Your website is broken. Go fix it. Go fix it. I feel like it's just like a complimentary texture versus like an actual flavor. Other like what you put on it brings out the flavor. So bad at rolling my R's. I just learned how to roll my R's a few years ago when I started learning Russian. To work really hard to call it Pokeball, not Pokeball. In my head, it's a poke bowl. But verbally, it comes out as Pokeball. But it does sound very similar. But it rarely reminds you of Pokemon because in my head, it's poke. Like poke bowl. Most of the flavor for sushi in your head is soy sauce. For me, it's wasabi. I love wasabi. I had some leftover from the last time I had sushi. And I was putting it on my vegan chicken patties. And that was so fucking good. Like, as a condiment, it was delicious. It complemented each other very nicely. It's pronounced poke, really, if you say so. Are you not a fan of spicy smooths? Do I have a better brush I can use for this? This is turning out terrible. It's so bold. They're all thicker. Oh, let's try this one and see. It really can't get worse. Oh, wasabi does burn up your nose. Poke. 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 It's okay. I've never ordered it anywhere, and I probably never will. I'll just make it myself. So I don't think I have any need to repeat it and sound silly. Yeah, horseradish kind of burns up your nose too. I like that kind of spicy though. Like it doesn't linger in your mouth. It's gone fast. Now I want some jalapenos and onions. I just got a veggie wrap and curly fries. Curly fries were so good. I haven't had curly fries in forever. But now I'm craving onions and... Oh, it's so much better. I'm craving onions and jalapenos. It's the fake wasabi we get. And mostly with horseradish. Authentic wasabi isn't as zippy. So if you go to like a sushi restaurant, is that real wasabi or fake wasabi? Or I guess it depends on probably how cheap the restaurant is. It's probably two different factors at play there. Excuse you. The power of understanding.
Mejor película. Batman.
Nuclear green wasabi. You guys are funny.
Y después Harry Potter viene el obra araña. ¿Todos saben que para secuencia sin cortes? Lo dije. Arranca a filmar y no para la cámara. Es todo lo mismo.
Most of the time in the States, even in a sushi place, it's the fake wasabi. The real stuff just doesn't ship well. Why don't they just make it here? What's wasabi made out of? Freshly grated rhizome, the underground stem of the wasabi japonica plant. Because the plant is very difficult to grow, most wasabi served in restaurants and sold in stores is an imitation blend of horseradish, mustard powder, cornstarch, and green food coloring. New goal in life. I want to grow a wasabi japonica. Why does Kick Bounties look so spammy?
You have 500 subs online if you need content for the next 20 minutes. Download Mecha Chameleon and win a round painted full of Kick Green. Easy? I don't know.
No, thank you.
It
looks so spammy. I mean, I could just grow it at work. Obviously, work floods.
Oh my goodness. That sounds so bro dude spammy. I got 500 subs online. You can keep them to fix your grammar. Use capitalizations. That does not look like an official message. I'm sorry, Kick. I'm not meaning to be slanderous. I'm just being observatory. I have no desire to play Mecha Chameleon. It's not my style of game. I think it's pretty cheap right now, though. Isn't it like $6? So they're talking about it in another Discord that I'm in. Putting together a girls' game group. Because I get the gamer ping from there. But I don't want to play it.
Igual ahora van a sacar nueva y van a volver a las raíces.
Maybe their shift key is broken. Then write it in all caps lock. I would find it more believable in all caps lock. I have. That's not proper grammar from an official source. It's like, did you hire a 12-year-old? I think it was, I saw it was $5.99 in the channel that I was following for it. Or not for it, but that it was being discussed in. It's not bad. But still not something I want to try. What? Whose phase is IGL now? Is it Twists? If anyone knows, I don't know. The power of understanding. You gotta fill in funky spots on the letters. My R got smushed out. That's when I gave up on the other brush. It's kind of a multiplayer only game. That's probably where they're putting the girls' game group together. Kind of like Among Us. Did you hear about the Mickey Mouse Doom style shooter game? No, but how fast are they gonna get sued from Disney for that? I'm guessing it's not a Disney official game, or is it? Kind of wish I could have done like the 8-bit lettering, but I can't this small, and I would have had to make it huge. I guess I could have done like the power of understanding, Scott Pilgrim, but it's fine. They're able to make it because the copyright expired on Mickey Mouse. So what do they do about that? Do they just renew it, or is it like gone forever and now Mickey Mouse is for use everywhere? I feel like with Steamboat Willie it would be even better. That's funny. I'm gonna shoot the demons. We're gonna go around this corner here. Oh no, a tomato head guy. Oh no, not the Whole Knight. It's gone forever because Walt Disney is dead. Damn. Can only use certain versions of Mickey as they're timed out. That's interesting. So I was curious about that. Like, why wouldn't they just renew the copyright? But I guess because it's not by the original holder, they really can't. Did Walt Disney have any kids? Like, does he have any descendants? I feel like I would have learned that from the
Whatever documentary I watched about him. Imagine It's Something. It was on Disney Plus. I don't remember them mentioning that though. I don't think he had kids.
Uf, pero sé todo, no sé todo, sé algunas cosas. Pero sé,
C looks like a G.
pero hablo de lo que sé.
A noir detective mouse in the game. I've been playing it recently and it's fun. It's called Mouse Pie. It sounds really cute.
E4
Or Mouse PI, probably not Mouse Pie. Disney already gamed the system by getting an 80-year copyright on Mickey. No one else could have swung that. Fair. Woo!
La pistolita lo puede dejar ya al equipo de Face en el día número 4. Face está obligado a ir hasta el último día.
It's 3.14 mice
Día
in
número
it.
5, debería ganar y quedar 2-2.
Not quite a whole Mickey, just 3.14 Mickey.
Twist. Twist. No, lo mató Jacob. Sí. Para que sus compañeros lo cierren. No. ¡Ay! Julio apretado de Twist porque sabe que hizo un bombón. Y sabe. Bueno, esto se parece el próximo día y eliminando así.
Final como Uruguay. La tarde. Vamos llegando a mediodía.
Scott. Mickey Mouse is actually what's been pushing the length of copyright in the US. Go Mickey. Oh, Mickey, you so fine, you so fine, you blow my copyright mind. Hey, Mickey. Yeah, yeah. Hey, Mickey.
Luis llegó en se terminó, amigos. El día de hoy.
He can roll his R's so good, I'm jealous.
Asegurado para Fake, está 1-2.
I have to like heavily focus on it. It's still not like a natural thing. I used to roll my R's in my throat for the longest time. And then when I started learning Russian, I learned how to roll it with my tongue somehow. Like mostly with like the dz sound, like the DZ that makes like an R sound almost like dz, dz, dz. And now my tongue vibrates. Eyeballers was today. 3D Max was yesterday, I think. Yeah. Rolling your R's is hard. I only learned how to do it properly in the last few years. If you like, it doesn't naturally come to you, it's very hard to learn. It's not like a motion that you can force. It's bizarre. Oh, excuse me. I'm getting eepy. Oh, this is highlights biddy. Maybe watch like half of this. And then head to Eeps. It's been a long day. I'm like mentally and physically exhausted. We cleaned so much. I had to bring a bunch of towels from home. I had to bring my shop vac from home. It was such a mess in there. It was just all nasty sewer water. Such a mess. I need to like sleep off the day and then I'll stop being so fixated on how gross it was. It was so nasty. That's a curly L. It's the type of thing they should teach kids in preschool. I'm sure it's easy to learn at that age. Hell yeah. Honestly, like they should implement more language learning in general, like outside of the native tongue at that age. It's because your brain picks it up so much better when you're young versus when you're older. Oh, I want to finish this letter and then look up what I want to do with Claudia.
Primero lugar para Face, tendrá otro de 3 de Max.
The cat school TV.
No, para ver que empieza el palito eran 12 en vez
I think it's mostly clicker training based though, which is fine, but that'll be interesting.
Aquí me como el quinto doblada, me gusta la doblada, está confirmado.
The Slavka I only taught a recall with the clicker. And Charlie didn't really care for the clicker training, so we gave up on that. Charlie did learn to walk on a harness though, so we gotta give her some credit for that one. The power of understanding. Scott Pilgrim. Blurp, blurp, blurp. Supposedly the channel is just called Cat School. Cat School clicker training? That's the only one I found on my phone. Although, I mean, clicker training is beneficial.
Is your cat trainable? In this cat school lesson, we are going to find out. Hi, we are Julie and Jones, and we teach
You can see Claudia doing that. Not just because the example cat is a black cat, but I can see her doing that.
And strengthen your bond. In this first test,
Like, who wouldn't want a cat that does tricks?
does your cat
That's how I'm gonna get her
try to
adopted.
It's not that important how the cat gets treated out, but we're really looking.
I don't think I've given her treats. I don't know if she's treat motivated.
Are working to get the food. If they're not that interested, make it really easy for them at first by putting treats around the cup. Then you can start to put the treats inside. Make sure the cup is too small
Doodle's
for them
still
to
being
get
a
their
good
face
boy.
in, so they have to start using their paw.
I'm surprised he hasn't tried to take the tent down. He's very adamant on that the last 2 nights.
Like this treat ball, which encourages Jones to work with his paw.
He's drinking his drinkies. Thirsty boy.
Working for food is a normal, natural, and healthy behavior for cats. A food puzzle is when your cat is working independently. And training is when you're working together with your cat. So if your cat tries to get
I scrubbed so much on my hands and knees today.
it's going to be easy for us to turn it into a
I can't believe we actually got it all cleaned up in one day though.
right here.
Like between the 5 of us.
Does your cat pass
My
this test?
bosses,
Will
their
they try to find the treat in the cup
cousin,
and get it out?
whoever he is,
If so, your cat is
and then us
trainable
2
and
girls.
ready for some more challenging assignments.
All the flooring is gonna have to be
This
ripped
test,
up though.
we are
They're gonna
going
talk to the
see
landlord
if
about
your
that
cat
tomorrow.
will follow a treat like a magnet. This is called the magnet method, or also called luring. And we use this to teach lots of different behaviors, like I'm doing here with spin.
I think she could
Grab a
learn
treat
that.
that your cat likes and see if they'll follow your hand with food. If they do, your cat is trainable and ready for school.
I should have a couple of extra clickers still. Because I think when I bought them
In this
for
next test, we're going to toss a treat away.
Charlie,
And see if your cat comes back.
I think it was a 4-pack.
Attention is an important building block for training. When you're working on these tests, try to minimize
She's
all
certainly very
distractions
attentive.
so your cat can give you their complete attention. Tossing treats away so your cat will return to you is an important foundation step in lots of the training exercises we do at cat school.
Aw. Smart baby.
If your cat returns to you ready for work, that means they are happy to participate and trainable.
Excuse me.
In this next test, we're going to put the treat down and see if your cat walks over to get it. Use your finger to point to the food. For training, we always want to transition to not having the cat see the treat, but that's not that important for these exercises. Our goal for these exercises is really to see, does your cat value the paycheck? Once we know that you have a reward that your cat will
Get
work
Claudia
for,
doing some
it's
agility.
easy to introduce the training.
I don't think Voya would have jumped over stuff like that.
If your cat
I think he would have just
approach
looked
your
at me like I'm
fingers to
stupid
see
if I
there
tried
are
to set
treats
that up for
there,
him.
then you have a trainable cat. In this test,
Excuse me.
you will see if you can get
Be
your
like,
cat
Mom,
to
isn't Big
follow
Bear
spoon
enough?
with wet food. The reward is to lick the spoon. It's great to have lots of different options for rewards. The more rewards you have that your cat loves, the more trainable your cat is. So
And
put
figure
some
out what
wet
treats
food on a
Claudia
spoon
likes.
and see if you can get your cat to follow it. If your cat will follow wet food on a spoon, hi, we are doing.
I'm gonna do clicker training. Seems like all common sense. I'm curious how they did it. Voya just like naturally would sit, and then I just encouraged it. That's cool though, the on the feet. There's another channel I follow where this chick does what she calls ballet school, and she actually does webinars to teach it. Flounder is a very loud cat, so I'm gonna try and be selective with the videos that I pull up. Oh, does she have a story of ballet school? Maybe? How it started?
Just wanted to take a minute to reintroduce ourselves. My name is Nina, aka Mother of Flounder, and this is Flounder. Hello.
Flounder is the biggest
Hello.
meow in the world.
And this is Mouse Toy. 2 weeks after I introduced the buttons, she began pressing.
Flounder communicates very efficiently with her
Working on
buttons.
the
I think
water,
she has like
decided to get-
50 of them.
Okay, so the consensus seems to be that you guys want to hear about how Mouse Toy got by the box, which meant for Mouse.
Flounder
Okay,
also
so
believes
this
that
one-
Mouse Toy is sentient.
All right, screw.
Around that time.
Most of her ballet school is probably paywalled because she teaches it. Like doing, I don't know, I guess kind of agility with cats. Like that's the closest thing I would compare it to.
Flounder and I just did a full ballet routine. She was purring so big and loving
It's more just
every
like being
minute of
in
it.
tune with, it's
But
almost
when I
like
stopped
Liberty
giving
work
her
with
treats,
horses.
She almost seemed annoyed, and she ate them, but she definitely didn't seem like she was
That's so
working
cool.
for the treats. Then she said this.
Flounder's so sassy. Ah! Flounder's obnoxious.
So I tried doing a routine with her without treats, and she seemed to do even better than with treats. In my 20 years of training animals, I never would have guessed the motivation could be the training itself.
That's so awesome.
Flounder and I just did a full ballet routine. She was purring.
Like there's many clips of those. It's so pretty to watch though. Flounder also goes out on a paddleboard, and they did like a meetup with another cat that also has the talking buttons, Elsie, I think her name is. And they wanted to see if they would communicate with each other like through the boards. It was really neat. I think they did like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks in an Airbnb. And by the time they're on the last few days, they were communicating with each other with the buttons, which was absolutely incredible. There's
I've been
Elsie.
sharing Elsie videos of Flounder, and I really
Elsie
did not
wears
expect
clothes.
this. For the record, Elsie has never combined play and water before. And I don't know why, but I'm gonna make sure we pack her yarn. I've been showing Elsie videos of flounder.
Flounder's also obsessed with having Pocahontas on TV, and they have a girl that comes up like dressed as Pocahontas, like for kids' parties or whatever, to hang out with Flounder, and she loves it. She went to the beach with
So
Pocahontas.
this fish is reactive towards stranger humans.
This is
even
setting
sometimes friend
unrealistic
humans.
expectations
She
for
will
a
shut
future
down
cat
when you're
owner.
around,
You want them
and
to wear cute outfits and
sometimes she
press
even starts
buttons.
shaking. It's really bad.
It's
It
probably
might be worse than I
more
ever
possible to
imagined
happen
Flounder
than you
not
would
only
think.
not being reactive with someone she's only met 3 times, but I was definitely not
She
prepared
loves
for her to do a
Pocahontas.
long distance recall with her, walk next to her, and even give her love love.
Like, I'm crazy, but can you imagine like hiring a children's birthday party person, like an actress essentially, to like give your cat the real life experience of the movie that they love? Like, I aspire for that level of bougie, rich, sacrificial, whatever the proper term is.
This most recent interaction with Pocahontas paddleboarding to
That's
Flo's
so cool.
private beach blew my mind. They looked for sharks together, saw stranger Christmas trees.
Like, I don't know, what if Voya like happened to love Iron Man or something, and I hired someone to dress up as Iron Man and come to the house and hang out with him?
Hung out as 2 besties. Seeing Flo this confident is such a wholesome.
I don't think
experience
Voya
for me.
actually ever saw
However,
Iron Man. I don't think
now
I've
I
watched
have to
any of
have
them at
this
home.
conversation on a daily basis.
That's so neat. Wet cat and a paddleboard is really a sight. It took a lot to get her to that point because they have sharks in the water over there, and she wanted to be friends with the sharks, and she wanted to be friends with the gators too. And they're not water friends, I think, is what they're referred to as now. Not water friends. Not friends. But specifically not water friends. Flounder does have like the most god obnoxious meow though. She sounds pissed off. That would kind of annoy me. Ow! She just sounds like a mad cat. But Flounder is very expressive. It's so cool.
Flo, Mouse Toy, and I went to the beach recently, and Flo kept looking around for something. I figured she
She's
was
such a
looking for
cool
stranger
cat.
shark, and we usually are
Oh, a
lucky
stranger shark. Not friend. It's stranger. Stranger shark.
enough to see them.
Alligators
However,
are
this
not
time we did
friend.
not.
But shark
Here is the
is
marine
stranger.
biologist Fish's take on
Stranger
why we
shark.
didn't see.
Because when Flounder takes baths at home, she has toy sharks, like kids' toys. And those are friend sharks. But water sharks are stranger sharks.
them.
And we don't talk to strangers. I just think Flounder is so amazing. She gets a lot of PR for being like one of the most communicative cats using the buttons. Like, look how many she has. I think she has over 50 now. This is an older video. It's from October of last year. And Mouse Toy is sentient. Flounder believes Mouse Toy is real. And Mouse Toy has feelings. So she communicates for him. He got ripped up during a very intense play session between the two of them. And there's one video where she's like, Mouse Toy, doctor, medicine. And then Flounder is now potty trained to use the human toilet. But Mouse Toy also wanted to be potty trained, apparently. So Mouse Toy has like a little dollhouse toilet. And Flounder will only use the people toilet if Mouse Toy is using the dollhouse toilet at the same time. Buddy system. Girls go to the bathroom together.
This is how Mouse Toy used to ask for puzzles, way back before he could talk. It seems as though his new hamster ball came with the gift of speech.
Now Mouse Toy is in a hamster ball because can't fix him and can't get rid of him. So now Mouse Toy is gonna ask for it.
So now that Mouse Toy is talking, serious question to anyone who is in the UCSD research group with me. Should I create his own profile and log his presses as Mouse Toy, or should I?
There's a better one of Mouse Toy. Their other cat, Fiki, passed away recently. Sad.
Flounder just tinkled a very healthy tinkle. And maybe
Tinkled a
watch,
good
of course.
tinkle.
But because I've been so focused on her tinkles getting healthy, I totally forgot about Mouse Toy's tinkles. He went to the vet with her and was seen for the same thing, so he probably also has FIC or MIC. Luckily, she's looking out for him.
Flounders has such a strong voice. Oh, Flounder has a raccoon tail too. I just realized she has perfect rings. Mouse Toy tinkles.
Good job, Mouse Toy! Good tinkle, Mouse Toy. Good job. Good.
Like, I feel like my life is insane sometimes, but I love, like, how she just gives Flounder the benefit of the doubt with all of these things. Oh, then she got a little dress. It's called a Pocahontas hug. She calls clothes hugs.
That she is obsessed with. But before she...
It's really amazing, though. Like, you just set up the buttons, hope for the best, like, some encouragement and training. But ultimately, they're going to come up with their own ideas of what words mean. So, like, clothes are a hug because they hold you. Like,
You got this,
it really is well-rounded thinking. Like, you have to extrapolate it as a human. None of mine like to use the talking buttons. Like, they just don't care about them. I don't know. That either means that I predict their needs very well, or they just have no desire to speak people words to me. Really had high hopes for those when I got those, but they don't care. Really thought Voya would use them, but instead he was like, I speak telepathically to Mom. It's fine. Bless you, bless you. Bless you, Zekers. She's so cute, her little Pocahontas dress. She didn't want to take it off for like 4 days after she first got it. Like, it was mentally very upsetting for her to take off her Pocahontas hug. There's a hug jacket that they sold in Japan. Is that the one that, like, pats you? Or I think those are popular in China. The little stuffies that end up patting you. Like, they're for children, but they're soothing for adults. Like, they're a big part of, what kind of therapy is it?
A Pocahontas hug that she is obsessed with.
EMDR?
But before she got...
They're yuppie. It's like recommended as a part of like EMDR therapy. So instead of just like rocking yourself to like comfort your inner child or like patting yourself, it's an outside source that does it, which is soothing, I guess. I don't know.
tried to make one for her and failed. This is what she
Had some tightening thing that would simulate a hug. Aw, that sounds cool. I feel like that would make me claustrophobic. But conceptually, it sounds like a really cool idea. Oh, Flounder's also obsessed with Christmas trees, and that Christmas tree can never be taken down. Just, you can't take it down. Flounder gets upset. Flounder is so talented. How did I not see that pinned right there? I feel like Claudia could do that. It's so neat. I would love for one of my cats to be motivated enough to do that. Aww. That's so cool. I feel like Claudia's noodliness could be like redirected to this though. I feel like she could do good with it. Her little noodle self. I'm curious what their method is.
Welcome to Cat School.
I'm probably gonna zonk out.
Tutorial, we are using the clicker to teach your cat to sit.
Voya just naturally sat, and then I just encouraged the behavior.
Hi, we are doing dogs, and we show you how to use clicker training.
She wants to noodle, but her noodling is just like wanting to be close. I feel like we could use her liquidity for the greater good.
Your cat should already know that one click equals one treat. Just a quick review, we use the clicker to mark the cat's correct behavior and let them know that a reward is coming. In this method, we're going to use a treat like a magnet to guide your cat into the position. With a treat in your hand, raise your hand just
I'd love for her to be a bit trainable though. I think that would make like such a difference in her adoption potential.
As soon as your cat sits, click.
She wouldn't just be a shy cat. She would be a shy cat that... Oh.
Notice how I give Jones one treat in the sit position.
Excuse me. A shy cat that does tricks.
So I can repeat the exercise. When encouraging your cat to move into the sit position, try to keep your hand low. Otherwise, you might be encouraging your cat to jump up and grab at your hand. When using this method,
Big bear.
make sure that we fade the food out really quickly so your cat doesn't
I
rely
never
on
brought my
seeing the
water
treat
out
in your
here.
hand. In
Oops.
this step, you're going to have two treats, one in each hand. You're going to lure your cat with one hand.
I need some water. Oof.
I do go.
Doodle's gonna be the snuggliest guy when I sleep in there with him and he's in his tent. He sleeps right next to me in his tent. I think he's gonna be the most snuggly boy.
The other. Now your cat should start to learn that treats can be in either hand, so it's not important that they need to see the treat. Now you're going to completely fade the food out of the hand that presents the signal. Wearing a treat pouch.
It's like the opposite motion of what we use with dogs.
Distracted by the treats.
Although it probably doesn't matter like what motion you use as long as it makes sense to the cat. They learn.
You might be wondering if we're going to teach the cat a verbal cue or a hand signal. Cats respond a lot better to hand signals.
Ringo is so smart.
On that,
So within the past couple of weeks, I've been observing this, and it's not just a fluke. Like, he does it every single time. Most of the time when I'm out with him, like at least once during the day, I'm smoking a joint while I'm outside. And whenever I'm done, I say house. And then he comes up and it's time to go in. Like, we're done being outside then, especially when it's been so hot. It was during the heat wave that he like really honed in on it. When I put the joint out on the concrete, he must hear it because he started coming up to the door at that exact time instead of where I would usually say house. He's starting to come up as soon as I'm putting my joint out on the concrete, which is so neat. He's so smart.
Motion becomes the signal to your cat to sit.
Very proud of Mr. Argo.
When
My
your
coworker
cat
didn't believe me, and I
sits,
sent her a video of it the other
treats,
day. Like, he
you're
does
gonna
it.
wanna add in this step.
No
The
matter where he
final
is in the
step for
yard, he
sitting
knows.
is to only reward the cat for sitting.
Oh my god, he's starting to try to eat bees, though. Since it's been warmer and, like, all of the catnip is in bloom from the rain. There's bees everywhere, which I'm not a fan of. I don't like getting stung. And he's trying to eat all the bees, which I was pretty upset with him. I was being very, like, authoritative on the 4th of July because he was really trying to eat bees outside that day. Like, he was all over them like white on rice. Like, I'm not taking you to the emergency room on a holiday. I'm not. Don't do that. Like, I could just give him Benadryl, but I don't know. What if it's a severe reaction?
Signal them
Never
to
know.
sit. If you
I
don't
don't
have
think bees would be
any
very
guides to
tasty.
work with, don't worry.
I don't think they'd be sweet like
Wet
honey.
food.
Someone needs to tell Ringo.
That you can teach your cat to sit using wet
I think it's
food.
just anything that flies, though, because he snapped at a moth
Sit
tonight.
and draw them into
It's
the
like-
sit position by raising the
Kind of like how Spyro grabs rocks.
Their bum hits the ground, and then the reward is a few licks from the spoon. After you've done that step several times, the goal is to make your hand look more like a signal, and then feed your cat with the spoon.
Ah, that's why she's doing hand down, because it's like the spoon motion. That makes sense.
Does your cat get too excited around food?
I don't think I've
encourage
given
you
Claudia
to
treats
work with
yet.
them on
I'm a
platform like a
bad
chair.
foster mom.
This can help encourage them to be more stationary and also allow you to walk away from the chair if they're trying to grab at the food. Click and return to your cat whenever they sit.
I would love for
Demonstrate
PB to be
calm
trainable, because
behavior.
she's so young
If
that
a
she
cat
doesn't give a
isn't
shit
interested
about
in
anything that I
training,
tell
then
her.
you're gonna
She
need
has
to back
selective
up a
hearing.
step and focus on the building blocks.
She's on her own
Toss
little
a piece of food away. Does your
cat
cat
mission
turn
in
to you
life.
for another? If not, you're going to need to find a food reward that your cat values.
Actually, I wonder how trainable
After
Slavka
you've
could
done
be.
your
Because she knows clicks to, like, come. I wonder if I could get her to do, like, the jumpy across things like Flounder was doing here. I don't know how to skip through reels. A desktop.
You come to me, give me everything I need.
I feel like Slavka could learn that. Not to.
your sit homework, you're going to want to introduce the stay.
All the dogs are all
Just like
well
I'm doing
trained.
here when
Time
I
to start
practice
training the cats.
encouraging Jones to stay in the position until I give him the signal to jump. Have fun training.
Hi guys, Julie and
Your audio is not consistent. Claudia already like stretches up. This might be an easy start place. Ha 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 ha. Cat's name is Jones, like Jonesy. Problem being, if the cats are well trained, we won't be able to use this old saying like herding cats. True. Get them all to line up single file like kids at school. That would honestly be awesome. Charlie has no desire to be trained, though. Neither does Chong. Kid probably could be trainable, but he would try too hard to be cute during the whole thing, and it would be a process. Void already does, like, the around the legs, so that was cool. But I feel like that's already... But encouraging the natural motions is, I guess, a good positive start. He has such a fluffy tail. I wonder if that's what PB's gonna look like. It's not like a long-haired cat. He's like thick and floofy. He's got a thicker tail. I wonder if that's how Peeps is gonna turn out. Because her tail is thicker than her body. Like floof-wise. It's like she's trying to be a long-haired cat, but it's just not working out. Really thought she was gonna be a long-haired cat when she was a baby. But it was just all of her outside floof. Still can't believe her coat when she first came in. It's the thickest coat that I've ever seen. As long as an adult cat's hair. It's 6 weeks. It's crazy to think that she's like 8 months old now. And all of a little over 5 pounds. What was she? 23.89? She's 5.26 pounds. At 8 months old. She's gonna be the tiniest little biscuit. Like, she's running out of time to get big. Feel bad though, her stomach being so fucked up for so long. Is probably why she's stunted. Couldn't absorb all the nutrients. Are my captions in Spanish or are their captions in Spanish? Maybe their captions are in Spanish? How do you change the language for captions on YouTube? I don't know why it's like that. I think Claudia could do that. It's really not much else I can do to make her adoptable, like, extra special stand out other than working on her shyness. But, like, if I could train her to do a couple of things and then put up one of those... Oh, what is it called? Like the picture frames, but they're digital, so you can show, like, videos or slideshows. That would be awesome to incorporate with her adoption event days. Because there's only so many days out of the month that I can do for her. She can't do every single event because sometimes she has to be picked up at 3. And I'm usually not out of work at 3 because my nephew got her for the first one. I won't always have consistent help with that. It was still so nice for her to be so excited to see me, though. I wasn't expecting that.
Hi everyone, Julie.
I always
and
wanted to
Jones
teach Voya
here
how to do a
today.
high
We are
five.
working
We
on
never
3
quite got there.
fun and easy paw tricks that every cat can learn. Good job, Jones. To get started, you're going to need a clicker. This is from our toolkit. You're going to need some sticky notes, some treats that your cat likes, and a small cup that's smaller than your cat's face.
I think PB is going to end up looking like that cat.
All we are looking for here is, does your cat try to get the treat out of the cup? Make sure when you start playing this game that the cup is smaller than your cat's face, so they're not going to try to use their mouth to get the treat out.
The little
instead,
shot
they're going
glass.
to be using their paw.
Claudia is smaller than him.
Good.
I have so many shot glasses from my grandpa.
So now I'm letting him know that touching this area with his paw is what's earning the reward. The clicker takes a snapshot of the correct behavior and lets the cat know that they earned a treat.
Matryoshka dolls of cups. That's a good idea too,
Once
to
the
use like
cat
a
is consistently
kind of
getting
like a
that rep,
rubber
we're
mat
gonna start to
underneath.
raise the cup so we can work on our fist bump. Now we want to transition to having no treat in the cup. To do that, at first I put a treat in the cup, but I also
I mean, like, in a nutshell, it's simple. It's just operant conditioning. It's simple psychology.
They do the action. When we start to feed them from
Just
our
is the
hand,
cat willing to do it?
less important for them to see the treat because they start to see that treats can come from multiple places.
But now that I know we're more, like, in tune than I thought, I think
Now I'm
she'll
gonna start
respond well to
cover
it.
my hand with the cup. Our goal is that your cat starts to hit your hand holding the cup. Good. And the final step is to fade the cup out of the picture and present the hand signal. Good.
Aww. That's awesome.
All right, that's your fist bump. Now we're going to move on to training for sticking out, which is going to help with the low five and high five. Once your cat knows how to plot target the cup, we can easily transfer it to the note. All we do is layer the note over the cup and then present the cup to your cat. Now we're going to try to get the cat to hit the note without the cup. Okay, so I'm just going to put it right in front like that so that it's not touching because my goal is to fade away the cup.
It's just a lot of repetition. Like, what else am I gonna do in my free time? Whatever free time exists.
Now that your cat is targeting the sticky note, it's really
Oh,
easy
Mondays
to
are
start
like
teaching
kind of
low five. All you're gonna do is
existential
layer
feeling
your note
though.
in your hand and click and
So I
reward
still
your
wake
cat
up
for
at like
hitting
a
the note on your
consistent
hand.
time. But then there's like so much of the day, and what do I do with it when everything that I'm either required or motivated to is done?
So I'm just going to cut it.
Add some more enrichment.
Good. And
I think that will really help, like, up her adaptability though, if we can do it. Who doesn't want a cat who does tricks? Like, that's common on the internet, but in real life, not so very much.
And that's your low five.
Just change the target.
Now we're going to work on our high five training. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to place the sticky note on our hand, but we're going to start to raise it. Whenever you start again on a new trick, go back and make it easier. That's why I've got the bigger note on my hand.
You smart kitty. Aww.
Good. Once you've got that, you're going to start to cut the note again. Okay. Nice. And I'll just speed through that. Good. The final step is
I was just like, I'll keep going as long as I keep getting cookies.
Work by it. And now we're going to put it all together with our low five, our fist bump, and our high five. Nice.
He even switched paws in between. That was cool. Aww.
Thanks
Go,
for watching.
Floofy.
Have fun training.
Go, Floofy.
Did you know that you can teach your cat one?
That's amazing. I want to watch more of these. I think I know enough, like, to get her with the baseline, though. Just try and target things and respond to the clicker at first. We'll work on that a little bit tomorrow and see how she does with it. Alright, Club Cult. It is time for the Eeps. I'm thinking start of July cosplay night tomorrow. Try to get some sleep tonight. I'm like completely zonked right now. I've stopped watching the video and now I am in bed. Today was just too much to implement it, but I'd like to tomorrow. Not the one that I planned for July. Hopefully I can bring that one out in August because my hair will be done by then. At some point, I gotta do my damn roots. Like, this is getting excessive. It looks fine, like, from the top, like, it fades nice, but once I put my hair up in, like, a ponytail or something, it's so dark. So dark. That's okay, though. But soon it'll start to look unprofessional. I have 2 dogs on Tuesday that I got yelled at by the client last time. I'm nervous. It'll be okay, though. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Eepy indeed. Been up since 4:30. Which, like, isn't out of the norm now, but my routine got thrown off because I was ready by, like, 8:30, but then I stayed at home until 10. I'm like, oh, you don't need to come in early. It won't be that bad. It was flooded with sewage. Then we're cleaning and my boss is like, do you think we'll be able to be open this afternoon? Like, no. So we cleaned well into the afternoon. It took so long to clean everything up. But we got it done way faster than the other shops, which was neat. So there was 5 of us where, like, everyone else was like a 2-people solution. My eye still feels irritated. It's just all the gunk of the day and all the little fluffies. More fluffy. Professional cleaners even. They're kind of professional about it. I mean, my dad's basement used to flood all the time when I was a kid. Anytime there'd be a big rainstorm, we'd have like a foot of water in the basement. So, kind of a professional. Kind of. I got some nice compliments today because I was cleaning up the back half while like everyone else was focusing on the front half, like where things are visible, like to clients. And I was cleaning up in the back where you really can't see anything, but like it needed to be cleaned up anyway. And I got complimented on how quick I was going with everything. I'm like, this is not my first rodeo. And I got called super strong because I moved all the kennels solo. Like, kennels aren't hard to move anyway. I don't know. I appreciate the credit, but like, it really wasn't that much. Be stumped in that scenario. Pretty much lived on hills all your life. It's flooding up here. You got big problems. Yeah, I'd say so. It's like a simple cleanup. Like, all you do is just shop back up all the extra water. And then you mop everything. And then you wipe it down. And then you mop it again, like for good measure. And then you vacuum up all the nasty mop water. And then wipe it down again. And then it's good and clean. But that on like a room by room by room by room by area basis. I'm just so shocked though that we got that much water in there. Or that happened at all. But thankfully it doesn't seem to be like a regular occurrence. Because the barbers have been there for 10 years. And they said this has never happened before, so. But from now on, whenever it's going to be rainy, I'm going to put my stuff high up just in case. Because if we got any more water than we did today, all my shit would have been ruined. And that's a lot of dollars of equipment to replace. Which I'm not a W-2 employee, so I don't think like their renter's insurance would cover our equipment. Because we're not like officially employed there, like on a cash basis. I don't think that would count. And I think for insurance claims, you have to like submit receipts or like proof of purchase and things. And that would be under my name, not their name or the other girl's name if her stuff got wrecked. But thankfully everything was okay. But I'm putting everything up on my table when it's going to rain from now on. It's going to give me the putista. Alright, it's Epo clock. Eep o'clock. It's Gigi and dinner and bed o'clock. Thank you, Club Club, for chilling tonight. I appreciate you, BBs. Thank you for making time for me for a Sunday fun day. Looking forward to some Monday madness tomorrow if all goes well. And thank you all for your time. Thank you for your chats. Thank you for your company. And thank you for your support. More than anything, thank you for your time. Your time is very valuable. It is not free. You can make more friends. You can make more money. You can make more silly little bells. You can make more silly little buzzy boos. We cannot make more time. So thank you so much for yours. It is a finite resource, and I am a very grateful girly. I am planning on some good eats. I made some good tofu yesterday. I made some good burgers. Made a bunch of baked potatoes. I made some roasted garlic. I did 2 containers of it this time, and oh, I put it on some of the bread that I made last night, and it was divine. I felt like I was eating at a restaurant, but in my bed. It was so delicious. We'll get the best. Well, I won't be snuggling anyone tonight. I'll be social distance snuggling Doodle. He'll lay down in his kennel, like next to me, kind of. And then I sleep with my arm down towards it so that he has me with him. I feel bad being away from Gunther and Zeke, but I don't want him to fuck his shit up in the middle of the night and me wake up and then see that he's been like struggling for forever in the tent, which reminds me, Doodle check really quick. Even though I'll see him in the hallway in a couple minutes, but heaven forbid he tipped the tent. He was really trying to impress you guys, though. He did not tip the tent tonight. Last night he tipped it like 5 different times. I'm hoping for some good rest, though. I think so. I had some really weird dreams last night. I hope they don't come back. Thank you for being here for the stream, the Mad Topher. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you. I was honored when you guys take the time for me. It is a marvelous thing in my life, and thank you. Yeah, get some slow blinks. That I shall do. Get some slow blinks and some mer, 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 mer. It's a very mer, meow, mer, Shay, mer, mer. Snuggle up with Count Olaf. He's being so cozy right now. His little curly noodle. I'm so excited for him to be healed and a free bird. Yeah, Doodles, aka Mugsy. Mugsy, Bugsy, Pugsy. My little mafia cat. Mer. Mer, Shay. Mer. You bebs want to keep up with me offline, hop into the Disky Boo. Otherwise we got the fun stuff. The socials. Some more fun stuff. The schedule that is meaningless at this point in time, but it has links, so we throw it in there. Thank you all for being a part of the stream, the Dreams Project. I appreciate all of your kind support and humoring my craziness. And thank you all also mucho for all of your help with Mr. Voyabean's care cost so far. I have to update his goal again, but I think we're at about approximately the halfway point. So I have to add last month's payout from that. And I think that'll put us up to 3 out of 69. So almost halfway. Which is really kick-ass. I'm a grateful girly. I am indeed. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Do me one favor until I see you, Bebs. Oh, I have that wrong on Botrix. I gotta fix that. Okay. Twitch just posts serenatv.c. That's not a link. That's not a real place. You throw Botrix on a tab so I can do that tomorrow. There, update Voya's goal anyways. Do me one favor until I see BB's next, and that is remember that you are wonderful, amazing, kind, spectacular, phenomenal, oh so wonderful, oh so gorgeous, all of the good things in the world. Take all those compliments and put them in your... I have no pockets in this dress, which is a downside, but it's still cute. Your back pocket, your side pocket, your cute little hoodie pocket, your adorable shirt pocket, floating in suspended animation. Those guns post cleanup, jeez. Wherever it needs to go until I see you next, you sweet bobos. Have a beautiful rest of your night. Thank you all again for taking the time to be here. Get some good eats, get some good sleeps, make good choices. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. I do many things. I also don't do many things, so use your own discretion with that one. I shall see you all for the next one. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. And good night tonight, Club Cult. Thank you for being you.